Reporters turned in their press credentials at the Pentagon yesterday after most news organizations, including MSNBC, refused to sign a new Pentagon press policy. Those new rules would restrict press access to large portions of the Pentagon without an escort. Also states Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth can revoke access to reporters who ask anyone in the DoD for information, classified or not, that has not been approved for release. Many of the reporters waited to leave together at 4 p.m. yesterday, the deadline set by the Defense Department to leave the building. In a statement, the Pentagon Press Association, which represents over 50 outlets, said the DoD confiscated their media credentials, quote, because reporters would not sign on to a new media policy over its implicit threat of criminalizing national security reporting and exposing those who sign it to potential prosecution. The association said members are still committed to reporting on the U.S. military and mark the moment as what they call a dark day for press freedom that raises concerns about a weakening U.S. commitment to transparency and governance, to public accountability at the Pentagon, and to free speech for all. Earlier this week, Secretary Hegseth said the press access to the Pentagon is a privilege, not a right. Far right-wing cable channel One America News Network appears to be the only outlet that's publicly stated it has signed the Pentagon policy. So, Jonathan, an act of solidarity yesterday. You had Fox News and MSNBC and Newsmax and CNN all together walking out in protest of a policy which explicitly says you can only report what we tell you you can report.
Yeah, and that was good to see, that solidarity from a variety of media outlets. And to be clear, these reporters, these places, still going to do their jobs. They can do their jobs from outside of the building. But there are now new obstacles to face here. And there are a couple things at play. First of all, yes, this is the Pentagon trying to drive home its talking points, trying to spoon feed information to reporters, saying you can only report on what we tell you to do. No reporter, of course, is going to abide by that. It's also a very thin-skinned Secretary of Defense who had a rough go of it in his confirmation hearings, who had rough media coverage because of his role in the Signalgate scandal, and he is afraid of being embarrassed in front of the President of the United States. He is someone who still is thought of well by the President, but very few others in the White House, I am told, Joe, and he's being very protective of his image and reputation. But this is a dangerous escalation, trying to curtail press freedoms. The President has mused about doing something similar at the White House. Perhaps Capitol Hill will be next. It is deeply worrisome and another example of this administration trying to deliver an assault against the freedom of the press, freedom of speech.
Jay Martin. It's deeply worrisome, and it's incredibly stupid. I was on a plane one time with Alan Simpson, and he was like, "Hey, boy,
okay.
You new here?"
Wow.
And I go, "Yes, sir, I am. You have any advice?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "When somebody in the media calls you, son, even if they're sons of bitches, you call them back that day." You know? And I took it to heart. When I got on the House floor, I wouldn't go sit with Republicans because they thought like me. I'd go sit first on the Democratic side to see if there were, any bridges to build there. And then I'd go out and I sat in the speaker's lobby, man. I sat in the middle of reporters and stayed there in between votes. If the votes were going on for hours, I would sit in the speaker's lobby. They thought I was all a right-wing nut, right? I wanted them to know me. I wanted to know them. Yeah. And a remarkable thing happened.
Here you are.
I got really good press.
And you are the press.
When yeah, and now I am the press, right? So when Pete Hegseth says, I don't like, you can tell he's a rookie. I don't like what they're writing about me. Instead of being like Alan Simpson and saying, always call them back, talk to them, even if you don't like them, even if they're too tough, even if they're unfair, stay engaged with them.
Totally.
It makes all the difference in the world. I have told that to presidents, to vice presidents. I've through over 30 years when people are seem like they're stuck in their office. Yeah. I'm like, call in the press, sit down, talk to the people, and start with the people you think are treating you the most unfairly. Sit down and don't try to berate them. Just talk to them. Tell them what you're trying to do. Let them see around the corners. It makes such a huge difference. And so Pete Hegseth now is further isolating himself. So, yes, if I could set my hair on fire if I wanted to, actually, at the end of the day, and I mean this, and you know this, the person hurt the most by this is, fill in the blank, Pete Hegseth.
Of course. And by the way, it contradicts Trump's whole worldview, too.
Exactly.
Trump is of, by, and for the press, has been his entire public life. He wants press coverage every day. Hegseth isn't getting the hint from Trump. But, Joe, the problem, and by the way, I see it in both parties today. A new generation of people coming in view the press as a risk to be avoided rather than an opportunity to be seized. And that's a fundamental mistake. You've got to project confidence, know who you are, and embrace having the media. I think about
Jonathan, Jonathan, I want to follow up on that. You know, two things. First of all, Donald Trump runs in 2015 and 16. You know, he comes on our show a lot. Sure. Why do you have Donald Trump on the show? I said, because we invite everybody on the show.
Sure.
And so he walks through that door. Lindsey Graham, you know, would call a couple of times as well. We continued that, like in future campaigns. You know, we had a couple of people call us once in a while. But you go back in the 2024 campaign, and I just want you to underline this point again, that the press is not something that you're scared of, something you got to either, if you can't deal with it, don't run for office.
Right.
Kamala Harris's hours being interviewed versus Donald Trump's hours being interviewed over the course of the campaign, not even a close call. And there were times where you would listen to Donald Trump talking to somebody, didn't know what he was saying, but guess what? He was there.
Part of the wallpaper, man.
He was talking to the audience, whether it was Joe Rogan or somebody else. That's the key. And these politicians, now one in the Pentagon, doesn't understand it.
Well, especially in an era of this, the phone, you got to be everywhere. You can't discriminate who you're doing, who you're not doing, pick your spots, because guess what? You got to flood the zone because that's where people are nowadays. And I'm glad that you mentioned Lindsey Graham, Joe, because every Republican out there should take him as a model. Your classmate in 1994. Here is somebody who's always looked at the press as an opportunity. He's not running in the Senate hallways from the press like some of his colleagues in the Senate when they get a hard question. He's going to embrace the questions, talk, constantly work it. Is he going to drive folks crazy sometimes? Absolutely. But he's going to be available for comment, or as Ed Koch once said, unavoidable for comment. But that's part of the job. And if you don't want to do that, engage with the press, then why are you running for Congress in the first place? So that you can
exactly.
You go on Twitter and sort of do a 30-second video with no scrutiny, no accountability. That's not how this works.
All right. You know how, Mika, you know who else seems to get it?
Who?
Mamdani, who was on Fox News yesterday. Looked right to the camera, talked to the president, which I guarantee you the president respected. And then you had Andrew Cuomo, who during the primary, couldn't even find the guy, while Mamdani was everywhere. It matters. So you look at the Pentagon and you're actually pushing out all of these reporters. It's the worst thing to do. The worst thing to do, unless you are so incompetent and inept, you don't want people to catch you.
Senior political columnist at Politico, Jonathan Martin, thank you very much for coming on this morning. We appreciate it.